and maybe the Democratic Party. The blame is, or BLM, the Black Lives Matter. They're much more concerned about the 1.6 billion they've raised than they are about black lives. And the billions will continue their anarchist movement. It probably will not educate any black children. So if we can say goodbye to them, the world will be much better. Our speaker is well known to a lot of you already. He's the executive director of the United West organization in Lake Worth, Florida. Tom Trento leads a team of highly talented investigators and analysts, and you can prove that to yourself by watching his blog, his videos, to expose anti-American, anti-Israel activity, and in particular the Marxist Jihadist coalition that's joined together to try to defeat President Donald J. Trump in November. Tom, I'll turn it over to you.
Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now, we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation can so endure. Now, we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation can long endure. Now, we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation can long endure. Hi, I'm Tom Trento. Nice to be here with you this evening. How's everybody doing? Good to see you. I want to, it's a great night, wonderful night. Any Trump supporters in the room? Any Trump supporters in the room? I want to thank Dale, obviously, and Beth, and Reagan Club, Trump Support Center, all the folks, the workers, the wait staff, everyone involved in putting together a wonderful evening, a lot of chattering. And by the way, I am not the official mask inspector for the state of Florida. I am. I went around to some of the tables and said I was the mask inspector. I run an organization, the United West, uniting the West against all the enemies out there, and a great bunch of people, guys and gals. Some are here tonight. I want to introduce, if I call out your name, just stand up. We have Barry Fernandez right here, who flies West One. He's the pilot of West One. He flies us around. The airplane has 4 wheels though, so we fly that. Mark Campbell running all this stuff. We're live streaming to the world right now out of that camera, even though this beautiful place doesn't have internet, we figured it out. Alan Kornman right here, Alan from Orlando. Roger Gangitano, you're back there somewhere. Tom and Carol Hayes, raise your hand, we're all working together. Sue Trombino, where are you? Sue's in the back. Anybody I missed, guys? We're running a campaign in the state of Florida to mobilize 1,000,001 additional evangelical Christians to vote on November 3rd for Donald Trump. You could see at your tables, there's a color brochure. There's one. This is an overview of the campaign we're running against Andrew Gillum. Remember that guy, Andrew Gillum? He may be on the sidelines, but his organization, Forward Florida, is moving forward to mobilize 1 million Democrats to flip Florida blue, win 29 electoral votes, and defeat the president. This shows you the problem. The Marxist jihadist coming into Florida. The solution, Christians, 1 to 3 million Christians not voting every year. 1 to 3 million. The president won by 112,000 votes. DeSantis won by 31,000 votes. The world changes if the stupid Christians get up and vote on November 3rd. I happen to be an evangelical Christian, so I can call my brethren stupid when they don't come out to vote. Starting September 8th, Tuesday, we will be back on the radio, commercial radio, South Florida, 50,000 watt station, and we'll be running this campaign. We need everybody's help, and you can hear it up here on iHeartRadio, internet, whatever. We'll get information out to Dale, and he will get it to you. Beth, you think you're the only person that can run a contest with your 50-50? Most speakers tell you to put your phones away. I'm asking you to take your phones out. Everybody take your smartphone out. Turn to the calculator. Take your phones out. Turn to the calculator, please. I'm going to read 5 numbers. The first one to correctly total the 5 numbers wins a United West Challenge coin for the Trump campaign. Beautiful little coin. Get your phones ready, and I'm going to need a judge. Dale, you're going to have to be the judge of who wins, okay? So jump up out of your seat and say the number. Everybody ready? Here's the numbers. Get your phones ready to the calculator. It's like bingo. 39, 47, 32, 20, 18. What?
156.
It said 156.
Yeah.
156.
156?
The number.
Oh, my fault. The 18's a 19. You still win. It's 157. The 18 is a 19. The winner right there. Come on up and get your coin. Here,
Thank you, sir.
157. So seriously, how many people in here support President Trump? I ask those occasionally. Talking about stupid, did you see CNN the other day? They had their. I gotta watch this stuff. It's opposition research. They had their screen up, and there's a building on fire, just flames burning, and the lower part, the lower label, the lower third said fiery, but mostly peaceful protest. Now you look at that, and for a logical person like most Republicans, The other side has lost their mind. We have proven that factually, empirically. But for a logical person, you go, how can something be fiery but mostly peaceful? There seems to be a logical contradiction. And this is the problem you see in dealing with your own brother-in-law and sister-in-law and your neighbors and your friends when you try to talk about the Republican policies or Donald Trump. They lose their mind. Logic goes out the window. Well, we have obviously the media carrying the water for the other side at this point, but it's a very exciting time to be alive. 66 days and the revolution will occur. It's either going to be a revolution based on some really bad stuff or a revolution that's reminiscent of some of what I'm going to get into this evening. The riots are backfiring, I think, on the rioters. The riots are backfiring. I saw a tweet the other day where the cars were going through Kenosha, 1 o'clock in the morning, a white neighborhood, blowing their horn, no white privilege, no peace, no sleep, no peace, no justice, blowing their horn. And somebody tweeted, whenever a car horn blows in Kenosha, another Trump voter is born. The riots, truly, folks, are the personification of evil personified. If you could take the concept of evil and put it in the form of a person, these are, sad to say, and as a Christian I know, but for the grace of God, there go I. But before the grace of God, these are evil people doing evil things. And they don't fully understand that the Chinese communists are behind the agenda pushing the Black Lives Matter movement. The three founders are trained Marxists, 2 lesbian activists. They want to destabilize the American family. Karl Marx said, you got to take religion, God out before you can implement the destruction of capitalism. This is what's going on clearly. Where's that fly? That's supposed to be over here, I think, right? But that's okay. It's right there. We have people burning that thing right there. We have people burning that. And you look at it, it's just there, just quiet. But the red blares out valor. That's what the red stands for, valor. And the white stands for purity. Not purity in its perfectiveness, not in its perfection, but in its objective, in its goal. The framers, the founders, wanted a pure country doing just and right things based upon the Judeo-Christian worldview. And the blue stands for justice. So that little thing has a tremendous amount of symbol that's rooted in the history of 244 years of this great country. And they're burning it and throwing gasoline on it. And the pro-athletes are kneeling. The Hebrew scriptures and the Christian scriptures. There's absolute truth in there, over against whatever ism of the day is being thrown forward in this country. That's the spiritual battle. It is the foundation of determining your body politic, your political philosophy. So we have a spiritual battle going on like I've never seen before. And it's a principled battle, Democrats against Republicans. And don't ever be afraid to call out and I don't think anybody in here is, the other side. And I don't ever use anymore, because I was beat up by a dear friend of ours, Danita Kilcullen, years ago. Trento, don't you ever say Democratic Party. They're not Democratic. It's the Democrat Party. And since that day, I never referred to it as the Democratic Party. It's the Democrat Party. And they have lost their soul on this wholeheartedly, as I'll show you. But it's a principled battle. And the battle is rooted not so much in the personality of Donald Trump, and now conversely in the personality of the presidential nominee, Kamala Harris. It's not really rooted in those two people. It's more rooted in the political philosophies articulated by the leaders of both of those parties. I dare say if President Trump wakes up tomorrow and he says, oh my God, I had an epiphany. I'm not a Republican. This Democrat stuff makes all the sense. I'm signing a pledge. I am going to govern as a Democrat. I'm repudiating everything else. And he truly makes this big announcement. Hollywood would be loving him again like they did before he stood for the principles of the Republican Party, which are anathema. They're a shining light to blind people. So Donald Trump is simply standing in the position of articulating and defending that belief system that is so horrendous and oppositional to those who claim to be Democrats. It's a principled battle, tactically, for your Christian friends or family members that go, I just can't take his tweeting. That guy drives me crazy. He's so rude. I'm from Newark, New Jersey, the streets of a Sicilian family in Newark, New Jersey. Donald Trump is music to my ears when I hear him speak. That's the way everybody should speak, you know? I went to school in Denver, and everybody was nice, and you cross the streets in the car. I go, what is this? What's going on here? Nobody wants to kill anybody driving or anything. He's a New York blue collar. The blue collar people love Donald Trump. Don't we? I was a truck driver. Blue collar people love Donald Trump. He's a blue collar billionaire. There's some crazy things in his life. Who hasn't? Who sees at this point that he could be relaxing in his golden gilded apartment, or fighting for the principles that you and I hold dearly. And that's the position this man has chosen in life. We need to stand with him and pray for him every single day. I want to ask one or two of you right now, if you could speak to Donald Trump right now, what would you tell him? Stand up, one or two of you. Tell me what you would tell him right now. What?
Thank you.
Come over here. Come here. Come on up here. Speak into this camera. You never know who's watching. This camera right here. Speak right into that camera. Right, Mark? That camera?
Well, no, speak in this camera right here. Stand right there.
Okay. Switch it. Wow, got two cameras set up. Tell Donald Trump what you would tell him.
President Trump, thank you. Please keep it up. Yeah.
I need one more person. Who else wants to come up and talk to Donald Trump?
Here.
Come on.
This camera here.
You don't know he's not watching.
Yes.
President Trump, we love you. Thank you for standing up for America. We know, yes, we know the evil exists. We know the world elites want to take us over. But you have put us number one. So thank you again.
Amen. All right, the winner of 157. Stand up. I got another job for you.
Come over here, right in front of the camera.
I'm going to give you more numbers to work. Pull your calculator out. I'll give you, if you do this, if you get this right, you get another one of these you can give away to somebody. These are really cool.
Yeah.
I want you to subtract 157 from 2020.
All right, who's got the answer?
Who?
1863.
1863. He's a winner, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. You got to give it away. You got to give this to a person. A Democrat, you convert to a Republican, okay? A Democrat, you not. Yeah, we'll go with an independent. Who says he's going to vote for Trump?
Okay.
Okay? It's yours. There you go. Give me a hand. If you're in Washington, D.C., you go 2 hours north. Philadelphia, 2 hours west. You land in a little farm town. Tiny little town. A couple thousand people. What was that number again? 1863? In 1863, in that little town, 2 hours north of D.C., 2 hours west of Philly, there was a battle. It was the middle of the Civil War. General Robert E. Lee was kicking the ass of the North, destroying them. President Lincoln was beside himself. The North was getting tired of this war, the bloodshed, human misery, the money. The South was winning every single battle. General Lee said, I'm going to Washington. I'm going north, and I'm going to fight, and we're going to make it sooner or later to Washington, D.C. And Lincoln was frightened. He was frightened. You got to put yourself in the mindset of the North at that time, where everything was going wrong. The North was turning against the war. Who cares if these people have slaves? Who the hell cares? They have agriculture. They need them. Florida, the great state of Florida, being one of those southern states. So July 1st through July 3rd, 1863. 157 years from right now. A battle of, as the historians say, cataclysmic proportions. 200,000 men fighting in a field in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania for 3 days. The South attacks the North, pushes them back, day 1. Day 2, another attack. The North holds its own. Day 3, the North flanks them, pushes Robert E. Lee's immense forces, powerful forces, back into retreat. That day, 157 years ago, in Gettysburg, easily, historians tell us, was the turning point in the Civil War and enable the North to gain the military initiative to start winning subsequent and comprehensive battles. Finally, to put it to rest 2 years later with Robert E. Lee surrendering. General George Meade, who was an unknown at the time, led those troops in Gettysburg. 25,000 on each side died. This is not a standoff war where you push a button in Nevada and a drone fires a missile 8,000 miles away and a couple of jihadis get wasted. This is men and boys, 17, 18-year-old boys, single-shot muskets, bayonets, swords, inferior equipment many times, running straight at each other, fighting, hand-to-hand combat, slicing, arms being cut off, cannons firing, body parts firing. 50,000 people lay dead at Gettysburg. When the troops left, the folks came. Couldn't believe what they were seeing. The army quickly put them to work. You got to start burying these people. I hired a black company to dig graves. And very quickly, it was decided to make a memorial cemetery at the site for the Northern soldiers. And it is there to this day, 175 years ago, 157 years ago. As was the case in those days, for any sort of celebration like, not celebration, recognition, memorial service, the country's top orator would be asked to come and deliver a message. And the memorial service was set for November 19th, 1863. And the country reached out for the top orator at the time, Edward Everett. He was a pastor, a lawyer, a politician, entered Harvard at 13 years old, graduated at 17 years old, studied in Europe, became a Greek scholar, the world's preeminent orator. And oration in those days was like you with your phone getting news and information. There was no mass media, so the top orator would come in and enthrall everybody with a 1 or 2 or 3 hour message, getting them up to date as to what's going on globally, what's going on nationally and locally. He was sort of doing the news and giving his speech. He spoke for 2 hours, followed by president that didn't even want to come. In those days, it was viewed as kingly if the president went out and spoke directly to the people. In fact, the State of the Unions were written. They were never delivered before Congress. And Abraham Lincoln was invited to Gettysburg on the 19th of November, 1863, 157 years ago. He didn't want to go, but he thought he should go, particularly after this victory. Wasn't feeling well. When he took the train and arrived, the historians say he was pale. He was weak looking. He worked on his speech in his train car. There were no hotels in Gettysburg in 1863. He stayed in a little room in someone's home, working. He had his valet, William Harrison. He has a valet with him. And his valet came from Springfield. William Johnson came from Springfield, and he's a black man. Abraham Lincoln brought from Springfield a black man to the White House, and they were inseparable. And he delivered his words, 272 words, 2 minutes, before his valet, William Johnson. Abraham Lincoln delivered his message, got back in the train, wasn't feeling well. William Henry Johnson was next to him for the whole ride. Get back to Washington, and Abraham Lincoln develops smallpox. He had smallpox when he delivered the Gettysburg Address. And his valet stayed with him, served him, and unfortunately caught smallpox and died a couple of months later. Lincoln was heartbroken. There was a new cemetery being put together called Arlington. He said, William is going to be buried in Arlington. And you can go there today. William Henry Johnson. And Abraham Lincoln wanted one word on his dear black friend's tombstone. And it's there today. William Henry Johnson, citizen. We are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so long endure. And I continue. We are met on a great battlefield, Abraham Lincoln starts to read. We are met on a great battlefield of that day. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who gave their lives, that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But, the English teachers will tell you, never start a sentence with but. Without question, the most heralded speech ever by a president, he decides, Lincoln, to make the conjunction, to draw attention to the difference. He said it is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. Now listen how he develops what is an amazing application then and today. The brave men, living and dead, many were wounded, but alive and broken and amputees. These dead who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here. He was mistaken there, but it can never forget what they did here. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us. So he goes there to deliver essentially a ceremonial eulogy for the sacrifice of these dead people. And he says, we can't do that. Their death, their valor, their purity, their justice has already paid that price. But what we could do, rather, it is for us here, don't miss this, it is for us here to be dedicated to the great task remaining before us. That from these hallowed dead, which we take increased devotion, to that cause which they gave their last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. We got a job to do. It's not over. I know we want to quit. I know we're tired. If we do that, how do we consecrate these men who gave their lives here just a few months ago? We must carry on with the mission of saving this great nation so that it can endure. That we highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from this earth. 157 years ago, 1863, Abraham Lincoln gave those amazing words dealing with a country being torn apart in a physical battle. If you add these numbers together, 39, 47, 32, 19, 21, you get 157. Chuck Schumer has been in the federal government 39 years. Joe Biden, 47 years. Nancy Pelosi, 32 years. Adam Schiff, 19 years. Jerry Nadler, 20 years. 157 combined years. You're looking at the leaders of a new country, a country unimagined by Abraham Lincoln 157 years ago, by this cabal of five who total 157 years in the federal government. Lincoln's America is unknown to these people. The America these people bring in 66 days is unknown to everyone sitting in this room. We have a choice: Karl Marx or Madison or Washington or Abraham Lincoln. 1863, at the Gettysburg Address, Abraham Lincoln was 54 years old. While at the Gettysburg Address in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, in Europe, a 45-year-old Karl Marx just had finished the Communist Manifesto and was finishing up Das Kapital as Abraham Lincoln was giving this speech in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. One man writes 272 words that come from the heavens, while one man's writing from the pit of hell has destroyed hundreds of millions of people. We have a fundamental question, ladies and gentlemen. Which party, forget about personalities for a moment, which party reflects, as Abraham Lincoln so eloquently put in, under God? You saw at the Democrat convention, the Muslim delegation purposely left out, under God. The gay delegation purposely left out, under God, in the Pledge of Allegiance. Which party, I ask you? And I'm asking you rhetorically because you know the answer. So what do? It's coming down to 66 days. I have found in my years of trying to mobilize people to articulate their faith by just getting out to vote is a tough job. We have people that are frightened. We have people now, good patriots, Christians, Jews who believe in God, who want the best for this country, atheists who want the best for this country. I'm dealing with David Horowitz. Many of you know him. We interview him every week. He's an agnostic. He believes more in God as an agnostic than many Christians I know. It's bizarre. But people are mobilized by fear. I want to lay something out for you here. I wrote this little thought down. I tried to follow it in my life. When you overcome the fear of death, you usher in a glorious way, the death of fear. Think about that. As believers, we ought to have the capability to overcome the fear of death. Once that happens, death is no longer an enemy. It's no longer anything. It's irrelevant. You live by the almighty power of God every moment of every day. His will be done on this earth. Is that not a wonderful way to live? A 157 years ago, Abraham Lincoln gave these stirring words. 157 years of federal disservice by Schumer, Biden, Pelosi, Schiff, Nadler. That's the battle right now. Which country? America needs fearless, I'll leave you with this thought, fearless truck drivers. America needs fearless waiters. America needs fearless doctors. America needs fearless lawyers, fearless teachers. America needs fearless pastors. Pastors, find your tongues. Please, we are looking for leadership at this point. Your flock is looking for leadership. Find your tongue. Where are the fearless pastors? So, I think the message for us this evening is to simply make a commitment over the next 66 days and forever to get to the point where you can kill the fear of death in a glorious way and be unleashed from that and become, may every person in this room become a fearless man or woman empowered by God to do His will in the everyday world in which we live, so critically focused on one key day that can change the history, not only of the United States. That vote that day will change this world. May God grant that for all of us.
So now we just have to go out there and do the job. And I don't think it's going to be near the job that CNN makes it out to be. I have great optimism. I think that Trump is going to clean their clock. I think that will come close to concluding the evening. We have some silent auctions.
Yes?
Okay.